so let me pull it up while I'm.
Okay, we're live now.
Okay.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Okay. So, hang on. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me just do this real quick. Because of course now my computer is freezing up on me.
So I heard something really interesting today, that the weather department sent out instructions on how to bake lasagna in your mailbox.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
You do it on the beach.
Yeah, right? Okay. Give me 1 second. And now my computer finally unfroze. I thought I was all set and then I forgot to print out my agenda. Okay, so I guess we can get the preliminaries aside. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If I can do a roll call for the folks who are in attendance, please. Or maybe I'll just do the roll call because I know who's here that needs to be here, and then anyone else who wants to state who they are can go ahead. So we have Donna Alexander, Debbie Knight, Bernie Krause, Bill Stevens. Right, everyone?
Right.
Right.
Here.
Okay, and I know Commissioner Persinger, Commissioner Cook, Commissioner Moskowitz are all here. Dan Kenny,
okay.
Hi. Dan Kenny and Ryan Ebner from Cohn Resnick are here.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and the town manager, Scott Koenig, is here as well. Okay, so that's everyone that is required to be here. Does anybody that's, I don't know, Ashley, I don't know how this is set up, if people can participate or not.
It shows that there's one person in the waiting room and they're listed under the name Bonnie. Is there anyone you're expecting that I should let them in, or should I leave them in the waiting room?
That's nobody that I'm expecting. Anyone else?
It would just be a public comment from that one person, I assume then.
Okay, great.
So we can ask them and I can put them back in, or do you want to wait until you ask for
that would be fine, just so I can know if there's a specific.
Okay, I'll bring them in now. They're in, but it looks like they're on mute. I can unmute, but it's not doing it from my end.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just keep going. So our first item on the agenda is the adoption of minutes for September and October. Thank you, Bernie, for doing those. I just made a couple of minor changes. Did everyone on the committee get those
Yes.
minutes?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to, let's start with September 18th. Do I have a motion to adopt those minutes?
Like to make a motion to adopt the minutes?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry. On both of the minutes, my last name is spelled incorrectly.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Should I give it to you?
Yes, please.
It's D''ORAZIO. Sorry for the.
That's okay. No, I appreciate it. I had Bernie's last name spelled wrong a couple of times too, so
yeah,
I'd rather have it right. So other than with that minor change to correct Debbie's last name, do I have a motion to adopt the September 18th minutes first?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the September 18th minutes.
Thank you, Bill. A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I didn't catch who that was.
Donna Alexander.
Donna, thank you, Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. I don't, any opposed? Okay, So the September 18th minutes are adopted. How about a motion for the October minutes?
Okay,
October,
I motion that we adopt them.
with obviously the change of your
Change,
last
yeah.
name. Thank you, Debbie. Sorry about that.
And I'll second.
Thank you. That was Bill, right?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the October 10th meetings minutes are also passed as amended. Okay, so now for the reason we're all really here. Mr. Kinney, if you'd like to give us our update on the audit and
Sure.
the drafts that you provided to us.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Kenny, partner with Cohen Resnick. With me this evening is Ryan Ebner, Senior Manager. We are here to present the March 31, 2020 Town of Dewey Beach financial statements, along with the internal control report, the management letter, and then those charged with governance letter as well. And before we conclude at the end, what we want to make sure we also do is discuss the timing and finalization of these reports. Since now we know the town manager is going to be leaving sometime relatively soon, so we want to make sure this is done prior to him leaving. He has to sign the representation letter, and then of course we have to get our legal letters up to date as well before we issue final. And then at the end of our presentation, we'll be more than happy to take any questions from the audit committee. And then I think consistent with the previous year, if there are any other questions that others may have in the audience, I think they're supposed to address them with Ms. Johnson, and then she can ask the question, and then of course, we can answer it. So with that, what I'd like to do is go to the financial statements, March 31, 2020. I'm going to start on page 2, the independent auditors report.
Okay.
So if you can go ahead.
And just to clarify, Dan, this is the large document, the 46-page document, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to put everybody on the same page that might have printed it out.
Okay, so the independent auditor's report indicates that we've audited the town as of and for the year ended March 31, 2020. Management is responsible for the financial statements and for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And the auditor's responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit. And we conducted our audit in accordance with government auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards. If you look at the third paragraph within that statement, it indicates that we believe the evidence that we've obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinions. And in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented for the financial position of the governmental activities and each major fund of the town of Dewey Beach as of March 31, 2020. If you go to the next page, on page 3, there's required supplementary information within that paragraph. It discusses 2 areas, and those are the MD&A and the budgetary and pension information and our procedures relating to those items. And then under the paragraph with other information on page 3, this is referring to the comparative balance sheets and it for both the general fund and the beach replenishment fund in the back of the statement. As I mentioned before, our audit is done in accordance with government auditing standards. Because of that, we also issue a report on internal control over financial reporting. So what I'm going to do is go all the way to the back of the statement. And if you go to pages 43 and 44, this is the report on internal control over financial reporting. There's 2 areas: internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters. In the internal control area, we noted 1 material weakness, which we'll talk about in a second. And then under compliance and other matters, the last sentence in that paragraph indicates the results of our test disclosed no instances of non-compliance. So if you go to page 45 of the report, which is the last page, this is our finding that we had, our material weakness that we noted. You'll note it's a similar finding to the prior audit and indicates that there was a lack of appropriately designed and documented internal control systems. And the effect of it is the ability for the town to prevent or detect material statements to the financial statements or the misappropriation of assets is substantially inhibited because of this. Our recommendation is for the town to consider hiring a finance director or someone with similar capabilities to assist in designing and implementing control procedures that don't include compatible duties within the town, and also to make sure that those policies and procedures and the design is all documented within your policy. As I mentioned before, this is a repeat comment or similar comment to the previous years. And so anyway, so you're familiar with this one. This was consistent with last year.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Sure. All right. Now, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Ryan. He's going to go through the management letter. We have 3 comments on the management letter. He'll talk about those items, and then after that, and then we'll go through the 114 AUC 260 letter as well. So Ryan.
Thanks, Dan. So I am in a 4-page document that is a letter, the PDF that was out on the town website called Draft Town of Dewey Beach, Delaware Management Letter. So as Dan mentioned, we have 3 comments here for management's consideration to assist in strengthening controls and efficiencies of the town's processes. The first one identified as policies and procedures handbook. This is really in line with the internal control comment that Dan described. Here we're just providing additional context and identifying some areas of focus. This is largely a repeat comment from last year, as the official formal policies and procedures of the town had not been published and distributed to the employees to our knowledge as of today. Going to the second page, the comment identified as fund balance. So during the prior year, we had a comment about establishing a formal fund balance policy for the town. During our audit this year, we received from management a copy of what was identified as an unrestricted fund balance policy. And we added this comment this year that we believe the policy should be revisited. We think that there's some concepts within the policy that are a bit mixed as it relates to the GAP, the literature, the GASB literature, and what the intent of the town would appear to be. So we believe, and we also believe there's additional components of fund balance other than unassigned fund balance that need to be considered. When we provided the draft financial statement for discussion today, we also identified and provided an Excel document that I believe was included on the town website with what the components of fund balance are on this draft financial statement. We believe that based on the policy that we read and the direction we received in putting together that assigned fund balance versus unassigned fund balance, that there might be a couple accounts or an area to reconsider before finalizing the audit. And so that's why we provided that document to be clear what was in the components of the draft statement. We can have any further detailed discussion you want about that either now or with management.
And Ryan, let me just interject for a second. So in your draft financial statement on page 14, that's where you list all the different items in fund balance, what's committed, what's assigned, those particular areas. That's what Ryan's referring to.
Okay.
Back to Ryan.
And then moving on, the third comment relates to previous IT considerations that we provided surrounding the strength of the town's IT environment. And during the course of our audit, it was made known that the town started the dialogue with the vendor related to some of these recommendations, but nonetheless, they remain recommendations of ours to strengthen the town's IT environment. since those efforts with the vendor have not come to the point of any deliverable at this point.
Okay.
So that is it with the management letter.
And if I can just interject, Ryan,
Yeah.
I don't know, Scott, I don't know, since there are management responses on this, I don't know if this is something you want to comment now on, or you want to wait until later.
The management responses are included in the document at this point.
Okay. I didn't know if there was anything additional you wanted to say at this point before Ryan continues on.
I'd like to come back once we get through some of this to the discussion about the fund balance policy and what we need to do with that. I know that Mr. Kenny and I had some phone discussions, probably went back to February to talk about this issue, but the kind of COVID-19 got in the way of some progress that we were trying to put together to kind of solidify this issue.
Okay.
And I think this is, for me, it's one of the important things that we tie down so that we have something to fall back on for both the auditors and for us operating wise.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Continue, Ryan, please.
Sure. So last I'll go through the last communication letter that we have, the formal communication with those charged with governance. It's a 3-page document. And the first paragraph identifies that we communicated with the committee on May 4th related to the plan, scope, and timing of our audit. And we also have required communications about the results of our audit, which is what this letter is. Under significant accounting matters, the first paragraph talks about the disclosure of the town's accounting policies. Those policies are disclosed in note 2 to the financial statements. There's no new accounting policies adopted, and so the policies described in the footnotes are consistent with the prior year. We noted no transactions entered into by the town that lacked consensus about the treatment, the accounting treatment. There's authoritative guidance and consensus related to all the transactions. And there was also all transactions were recognized in the proper period. The next section talks about management estimates, and we're required to disclose to you any significant estimates included in management's financial statements. The one significant one that we wanted to point out is the estimates related to the management, the town's share of the net pension liability. The town participates in the Delaware Public Employees Retirement System, and the allocation to the town is provided to the town by the plan itself, and it provides backup documentation related to the methodology, and we consider that when auditing the town. The next section there talks about significant disclosures. Again, I wanted to point out significant disclosure note 8 relates to the pension plan, and note 11 discloses the fact that COVID-19 creates some uncertainties, obviously, for the town's financial position. So it talks about those uncertainties surrounding COVID-19 and its impact on the town's operations. Moving to the next section, we encountered no significant difficulties with dealing with management performing our audit. We are required to accumulate all known and likely misstatements that we identified during our audit. A summary of uncorrected misstatements, which I can describe in a minute, just one, is attached to this document. And all misstatements are deemed immaterial, either immaterial in the aggregate or individually to the financial statement. So I'll talk about that past adjustment right now. Unrecorded misstatement on Schedule A. So in the fiscal year 2019 audit, we identified approximately $30,000 of grant funding that appeared to be unreconciled, and we identified it to you guys as an unrecorded misstatement because we weren't able to obtain sufficient audit evidence for the treatment. During the year this year and during our audit, the town reconciled approximately 20,000 of the 30,000, of which about 16,500 had been previously misstated as we expected or identified last year, should have been recognized as revenue in prior years. and the town recognized it as revenue to catch it up. There was $3,500 of the prior year balance that had been properly accounted for, and there remains about $9,500 is unreconciled based on the information we've been able to receive to date. Moving back to the first page of the letter, bottom paragraph, we are pleased there's no disagreements with management related to the accounting auditing during the year. On top of the second page, at the end of the audit, we'll request certain representations from management to complete the audit. That would also include getting updates from the attorneys that the town hired during the year to ensure there's no legal representations we need to get from them. So that's something that Dan mentioned at the beginning, that we would try to solidify that timeline at the end of this presentation.
Okay.
Then if management had reached out to another CPA firm for basically a second opinion on any accounting treatment or accounting opinion, it would be under our professional standards, they would be required to communicate to us that they discussed that with you. And to our knowledge, there were no such consultations with other accounting firms. And then the last few paragraphs of the letter talk about the supplemental information that Dan already discussed when he went through financial statement opinion, the required supplementary information and the other information, and our responsibilities for that he already discussed. So with that, I think if you have any questions on any of the three documents we just went through, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay. Committee members, anybody have any questions for Dan or Ryan at this point?
I just had one quick question for Ryan, just as kind of a clarification on the summary of unrecorded misstatements. It's relatively immaterial, right? We know that. But is it that it's not in the financial statements, or it's just hasn't been reconciled in the financial statements?
So to add a little detail, so in the prior year, there was about $29,500 of money that had come in from grant sources that was sitting in a liability account as unearned revenue. And it was unclear as to whether the grant had already been met, so whether revenue should have already been recognized at that point or not. So at this point, most of that have been reconciled, and there's a few accounts that have been on the books for a good handful of years, about $9,500, where I think additional information or reconciliation will be required.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Questions from the committee? Scott?
Yes, I do think that the $9,500 that Ryan is referencing, I believe those are old, very small police-related grants, if I'm correct. So it's not general government grants. This is like Sally and Edie grants, I believe, from the police department from prior years.
Okay, thank you. Does that bring up any other questions for anybody on that subject before we move on?
If you don't mind, Scott, is there any reason why we wouldn't move it into a restricted fund if that's where you believe it came from?
No, I mean, I think generally they are in restricted funds when they come in. When the revenue comes in, they're put into a restricted account. I'm not sure how far back these go. They go back more than a couple of years.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Dan or Ryan about the report? Or okay, well, I guess I will. Hold on, let me get back to where I was before. Did anybody have anybody on this is for the committee, any committee members have any other questions or see any concerns before we move on and decide whether or not we're going to vote on this draft report as it stands right now?
None.
Debbie or Donna or Bernie?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I mean, I think we had discussed previously that we kind of expected there to be some, given the COVID environment, we expected to see some similar things because we just haven't had the ability to, and this committee hasn't had really the ability to, help out or to oversee anything to help the town kind of make some of these changes that have been recommended. But I know my last conversation was that in February we were going to try to have a meeting in March, and then COVID hit, and we've all been kind of on the downhill. But Scott, you have your.
Yeah, I wanted to see if Ryan and Dan can explain. There was a spreadsheet that was attached. It reads general fund, town duty beach general fund adjusted trial balance. And if I understood some of the comments correctly, that this is related, this spreadsheet relates to the fund balance policy, or what you would like to see maybe adjustments to the fund balance policy. And I just wanted to know if you could go over what the highlights on this sheet mean and why you highlighted things. Because I think you guys highlighted.
Sure. Let me just start out for a second there. So with respect to the fund balance policy, I would just refer to our recommendation that, it's a complex issue, requires, folks that have the experience to know the difference between fund balance and restricted net position. There's a lot of nuances to it. So I'm going to emphasize again, our recommendation and sort of stand by our recommendation. And I'm going to let Ryan go ahead and comment on the particulars of the Excel and what his comments were relating to that.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So I agree as far as going forward, the policy itself is one topic, but to talk about specifically these numbers in this year's report, what I was identifying in providing this Excel is the guidance we had related to what management wants to include in the financial statement as assigned fund balance versus committed fund balance or restricted fund balance. I know a lot of that's identified through setting up separate cash accounts, which is the way you guys have chosen to manage it. The direction we got was to basically use the same approach as last year, to look at the same cash accounts as last year. And so what I've tried to identify here is in the draft financial statement on page 14, you look at all those categories of assigned fund balance or committed fund balance. This is how you get back to the numbers based on the cash accounts as of, and the one column is the trial balance as of March 31st, 2020, and the other is the trial balance as of March 31st, 2019. And you kind of see we use the same, if you use the same exact methodology for what accounts are assigned for public safety, what accounts are assigned for legal, assigned for IT, etc., that the same, the numbers you get back to last year's financial statement and this year's draft financial statement using the same methodology. The reason I wanted to point it out is reading through the unrestricted, as it's called, the unrestricted fund balance policy that was published this year. That policy talked a bit about trying to keep unassigned fund balance to what essentially was somewhere between $870,000 and $1.4 million. And if you look at last year's draft financial statement, or last year's final financial statement, this year's draft financial statement, the number is 2.4 to 2.7 million based on using this methodology, using these cash accounts. And we think we know the reason, what the policy was trying to get to, and what what the disconnect is in some cases, but that's what we just wanted to point out. And why we've also added that comment to the management letter this year that it needs revision.
But we do applaud that you guys made an attempt, right? I mean, that's good you made an attempt, but it's it says what it says. I'm not going to say anything else.
Does that raise any other questions from the committee?
No.
No.
Okay, so last call for any questions for Dan or Ryan before we move on.
And then Julie, so just one thing to interject, and maybe you'll get to it, but I just want to talk about timing. And
oh yeah, we can do that.
Like when are you guys going to finalize this? Like I said, we have to get a representation letter from Scott before he leaves in order to finalize this.
Well, I mean, technically under our charter, the audit is due by August 15th. The next commissioners meeting is, well, there's a special committee meeting this Friday, but my plan was to have our final draft to the commissioners, recommend, the committee recommending the final draft to the commissioners for the August 14th meeting. So, and I don't know, Scott, I don't know what your timeline is as far as when your last day is.
So my last day in the office is the 5th, but then I assume I get paid the unpaid vacation, and that will just meter out over the next, I don't know, week or two. And then the mayor has asked me to be involved with several projects. So I'm not leaving the state. I'm not leaving the area. And I think I would still have the authority to sign whatever documents you need me to sign up to at least the August 15th date.
Okay. Well, then that helps.
Unless the commissioners object for some reason, which.
Right, unless, yeah, if the commissioners don't approve the final draft, then obviously we'll have to revisit what we need to do. But Dan, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so let me just, is Mr. Koenig not going to be employed by the town as of August 5th? Because if you say this thing's going to get final on August 14th, we have to have his signature on the representation letter as town manager. And
I think what Scott was saying is that he's got vacation and other things, so that technically,
okay,
even though his
that's
last day
fine.
in the office is August 5th, that you'll still technically be the town manager for some time, for some period after that, right? Is that right, Scott?
That's my understanding.
Okay, as long as Scott being the town manager as of August 14th is in fact the town manager as of 14th, that will work.
Okay.
Dan, let me ask you a separate question. If we know, I don't want to get into the nuances of that, but if we know that Scott's last day is August 4th or 5th, which is roughly 2 weeks from today, is there anything stopping us from having the audit done prior to that?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Right. So if that's his last day, then you'd want to finalize it then. And as Ryan indicated earlier, we just have to make sure we get all the legal letters back, and we'll work on that and let you guys know if any attorneys aren't responding.
Well, and given the fact that I don't see any major changes here, that based on this meeting and our discussions, I think if we can have it finalized before the 14th, I was just letting everyone know the 14th is the commissioners meeting that I had intended to present to the commissioners, but all the documents and everything can be finalized before then. It's just that would be the next meeting available for me to present our recommendations to the commissioners.
Yeah, that's great. Yep.
Okay. So anything else from anyone before we move on? Okay. So at this point, I would ask for a motion to accept this draft to then present. And I know I don't see, last year we did have some corrections that we asked to be made, and that I was kind of given the authority to kind of sign off on behalf of the committee for any, and it was more typographical than anything type of issues, if anything got changed on this draft report. So I guess I would need a motion to approve the draft to be passed on to the commissioners for finalization, subject to any minor changes. I don't know exactly how to word that. So someone help me out. My brain.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the draft as prepared, provided that there might be minor changes to the wording as potentially as a result of the management letter.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, no. So that's passed. So then, Dan, I guess I will just get with you on the final document, and we can coordinate with Scott as far as what the best date is to get those documents signed and moving forward, so that the committee can present the finalized version to the commissioners on the 14th.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Ryan.
Dan, we appreciate it. And Ryan.
And you didn't have to drive 5 hours this time.
Oh.
No, but I still got in a suit for you.
I'm gonna go out of, can I go out of order?
Yeah.
The next item on the agenda is to discuss our steps on moving forward to better work with the town and audit recommendations. But since I don't want to hold Dan and Ryan up, do I have a motion to move up the public comments to this point in the agenda so that we can allow, if anybody has any comments or questions for Dan and Ryan, we can let them go.
Come on,
Gary?
somebody make the motion.
Gary's got something to say.
Well, yeah, I just had a comment. I just want to say to Dan and Ryan that I know that with respect to the fund balance policy, Scott took that very seriously and the commissioners took that very seriously. We had some substantive discussions. We tried to work from the CFOA guidelines and other things in the literature, but I can imagine that the two of you probably would have found our discussion rather entertaining, just based on the level of misunderstanding that we suffered from. So, you know, we need to reach out for help to get this right, but I just wanted to make that statement. We really did take that seriously and, you know, took our best shot. I didn't think we were quite there and we never got back to it because of the press of other things, but it was a serious attempt.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep.
Do I have any other comments with regard for Dan or Ryan before we move on so that we can let them go?
Done.
None? Okay, I know we had at least one person on from the public. Ashley, have we gotten any?
I've not gotten any response from her.
Okay,
It says Bonnie. I will keep them here, and if I see anything otherwise, I'll let you know.
okay. Any of the other commissioners have any? And I can't see everybody.
Commissioner Moskowitz is raising his hand.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Moskowitz.
Yeah, so last year we switched to a powerhouse auditor. It's to the credit of Dan and Ryan. The auditors found numerous issues, including the town made little progress in addressing issues from the previous year. Last year's bad audit was good in that it provided a roadmap to the town of what needed to be done. I then asked the town and audit chair Julie Johnson that we make a list of all the issues, prioritize them, and have the audit committee meet every 3 months to go over the progress. The audit chair refused to hold any interim meeting until the end of next year's audit, and I was removed as commissioner liaison to the audit committee. So I figured to take a step back and see what happens. Well, little got done despite ample time and resources. The town now has another bad internal control audit and a wasted year. With an external accounting firm at the town's disposal being paid $90,000, why was a simple formal handbook not done? As a CPA and Six Sigma Green Belt, it's time for the town to try it money. After this year's audit, the town will produce and maintain a prioritized spreadsheet showing all the audit issues, resources needed or assigned, and what should be accomplished in the next 3 months.
Commissioner, I appreciate that. This comment, I was
not
asking for
finished.
comments directed toward, Cone Resnick so that they can leave this conversation, not for general comments.
Well, you said public comments, so let me just finish my.
But I indicated specifically that it was public comments for, or questions for Cone Resnick.
Well, as a parliamentary expert, a public comment is a public comment, and it's not usually interrupted by the chair, which you seem to do every year.
So Commissioner, are you acting as a public comment or as a commissioner right now?
As a public comment, then you're not supposed to interrupt people during public comment. You should let them speak and finish their 3 minutes.
I addressed you as commissioner. I didn't address you as Mr. Moskowitz, so I didn't know which one you were right now. Sorry, Julie, I'll step back.
That's okay. Go ahead and continue, Commissioner.
Yeah, as a CPA and Six Sigma Green Belt, it's time for the town to try it my way. After this year's audit, the town will produce and maintain a prioritized spreadsheet showing all the audit issues, resources needed or assigned, and what should be accomplished in the next 3 months. The audit chair will agree to either hold meetings every 3 months or step down so the next audit chair can. The audit committee will then track the town's progress. If more resources are required, the commissioners and the public can be informed at the quarterly meeting and go step by step. Additionally, the town needs to replace its internal accounting firm immediately with a competitive request for qualifications. The town still also does not have an in-house financial employee for an organization of this size. In the management response, everything gets pushed off for 2 years. It gets pushed off past March 30th, 2021, so that next year's audit is not going to be productive and we're looking into 2022. That is a disgrace. As confirmed by the auditors, the town has many IT issues. Last year, I relayed concerns about the ability to change passwords, disaster recovery, cybersecurity, and being on Windows 7. I have completed IT coursework and hold certifications such as AWS Cloud Practitioner. The town thought if it upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10, all would be good. This is not the case and a very dangerous assumption. Like the above, we need to go step by step and address the issues on a prioritized basis with quarterly meetings. This could have a material effect on how the town operates. And the September 2021, again, a no-go. You need to do the deadlines by March 31st, 2021. Step by step, I am asking the audit committee, let's work together and end these bad audits. And if the audit chair can't handle doing publicly recorded meetings, she should let someone who can. It's imperative. The town deserves better. The employees who are missing out on correct, timely paychecks deserve better, and the public deserves better. This is basic stuff. Who wouldn't want this list? It's very simple. If you meet every 3 months, we can get it done together. I just don't understand why you have a meeting once a year and say, oh, we did a lot.
Are you finished, Commissioner?
I am.
Thank you. So anyway, does anyone else have any questions or comments for Cone Resnick before they can leave this conversation?
No.
No.
Thank
Nope.
you. Okay. Dan.
Great job, guys.
Thank you very much. And Dan, I'll be in touch with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
So moving on to, and this kind of addresses Commissioner Moskowitz' comments, is our discussion for steps moving forward. As I stated at the beginning of this meeting, this year has been a little bit odd. We had our last meeting was in October, and we discussed not meeting again until the first part of the year in order to give the town some additional time to start working on these items that were of concern. And as I stated in February, I sent out an email to the committee trying to organize a meeting for March, which then COVID happened and it didn't happen. I think the town has been under, everybody has been under different circumstances and how they conduct business, making it a little more difficult than in a normal situation to move forward and resolve some of these issues. That being said, the goal of this committee, and I know it's been discussed in the past, is to try to help the town as much as possible and to, keep everybody on track going forward. I think the last 6 months have been an exception rather than the rule. And if anybody from the committee has any suggestions as far as how they feel the best way to move forward is, I am definitely open to suggestions. Especially, and considering that we're still are in a COVID environment and we don't know when that environment is going to end.
Julie, if I could,
Yeah.
this is Deb. If I could make some suggestions, I agree with everything you've said. And I do believe that if we were to let's put a calendar out, let's now say, okay, we're going to meet every certain amount of time, whatever that is, with some frequency, and do it by Zoom, given the environment, which works perfectly fine. People are doing that. And then also maybe work on forming some committees around some of these items. For example, the IT. There are people on the committee like David and myself that have some IT background that may be able to work on helping the company that we get put these policies together. And there's other things, there's, so I think that we instead of just sort of meeting and saying, town, have you done this? Right. We use our expertise and say, let's form some committees. Let's okay, this person be head of this committee, and get some people from the public to say, all right, let's work through this like we do all the other issues that we have committees on. And then put that, let's put it out. Let's say, okay, we're going to meet, every other month. And we put that agenda together, and Ashley posts it, and we know that. And we try really hard to stick to it. And we take one thing each time, to talk to the town about, and let them know ahead of time, this is what we're going to talk about, and try to push it that way. That might shed some light on it.
I think that would be great. I especially, it seems like we have, a couple of two I see the two biggest issues are the internal controls and the IT perspective, spot. I think everything else is, I mean, there are things that need to get done, but I don't think there is major. But as far as, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Persinger, but I think don't the commissioners have to create committees? We can't create additional committees to try to help oversee these things. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, you could have a subgroup, but it can't be large enough so that it would constitute a body that needs to abide by the FOIA rules.
And what would so how many people are we talking for a subcommittee to if we wanted to work on these things in a subcommittee type of atmosphere?
I don't remember how many people you have on your committee.
We have 5.
Okay. But I mean, you're probably safe for just if a couple of people want to work on something and then come back to that to the group. You can't have an exchange back and forth of emails, but
right.
A couple of people work on it and bring a recommendation to the group that the full committee then considers. That should be within the FOIA regulations. And I'm subject to correction here too if my perception is wrong.
Okay. 2 max, 3 would make a quorum because you have 5 on the committee.
Okay. So 2 people could work together offline and discuss these things.
Could we not bring some people in from the outside? I mean, could we not add some? I mean, there's a lot of talent still in Dewey that might not be on our audit committee, and we could get some thoughts and ideas on issues. But we're not moving this stuff forward, and we have to. And I understand everybody's working so hard that is involved, in the committee and the commissioners, and let's tap some more people to say, come on, this is our town, guys. Let's step up and help us with these issues.
Well, I think and one of the commissioners, Commissioner Persinger, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, as a committee person, Debbie, you could ask someone what they think about an issue or what if they have any advice, and then you could bring that recommendation back. But as far as anything that is beyond the scope of our committee, the commissioners would have to organize a separate committee to do that.
Okay, so that brings up the fact that what exactly is the scope of our committee? I mean, right now it seems like our committee is, we look at the audit, we say, okay, that looks really good, and then that's the end of it. And I believe we need to have a little more teeth in what we do. I think
yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
No, I think, and that's what we discussed last year too, was to do that. And like I said, my recollection is that we wanted to give the town a little bit of time to kind of sink their teeth into this. And then when it was time to really have a meeting and see how much progress took place, we kind of entered this strange new world of COVID, and it didn't happen. And I don't think it was, just not that the town couldn't be working on these issues even during this environment, but I think it makes it much difficult to be looking at hiring folks or to be looking at new vendors when you don't have everybody on site all the time or working in the same environment. But I absolutely agree. I mean, I think we need to be a little more of an oversight to make sure these things are getting done in a timely manner and to help us going forward. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I honestly don't know what the charter looks like, but maybe we could all take a look at the charter and make some amendments to the charter to give it a little bit more oversight. That would probably be the first step.
Well, and ironically, I am also on the Charter and Review Committee. So that can be something I can specifically look at and see if there are any recommendations that we need to make that specifically apply to the audit committee going forward. So does Bernie or Donna or Bill, any thoughts?
Well, yes, I think it's good that we get a couple of people together who've got the interest, got the capability, got the background. Debbie and I talked a little about this, last year sometime. It's what I used to do when I worked full time, was doing IT security audits. So I'm glad to help in that area.
Well, and if you all recall, I mean, the IT piece that Cone Resnick has was one of the reasons we picked them.
I know.
That had that capability. So I think there's something that we need to, and it's, it's going to be a little difficult for the next couple of weeks, obviously, because we're going to have a transition going on with Scott leaving and a new town manager coming in. So that's obviously going to delay things to some extent as far as getting things hopping. But I know in talking to Dan, he, he has what resources, whether we use them for IT or we use someone else, and even for some other things. I think the resources are there. We just need to tap into them. And as you said, Bill or Donna.
Gary, you
Fine.
want to?
Oh, sorry. Like I said, sorry, I can't see everybody.
Julie, okay if I
Yeah.
speak?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
I'm just going to note, in terms of looking at the charter, just recall that there is a specific set of responsibilities in the formal town charter, but
Right.
there's also a more specific list of responsibilities and possible actions that the audit committee can take in another document that's posted on the website. So
Right.
you could take a look at both of those.
Yeah,
whatever
I've looked at them.
recommendations-
It's just been a while.
Whatever recommendations come up with should then come back to the commissioners for their approval and recommendation.
Okay. Thank you for that. Donna or Bill, do you have any thoughts?
My only thought was to look at the management letter and create specific tasks that need to happen. For example, whether we hire somebody to produce to do the cybersecurity audit prior, somebody to do the policy procedure handbook, and ask that the audit committee send this to budget and finance committee to make sure that it's included or that the funds are there either in next fiscal budget or based on the current fiscal budget.
Right.
I'll tell you though, from having looked at the budget and finance side, if this is a $40,000 endeavor, it probably wouldn't have been a good time given the other issues that we've had this year. But
Right.
it's no reason why it's not on the plan.
Okay. That's a good thought, Bill.
I just agree that we need to, move on and start following up on the recommendations and not letting it go, another year. And I think that should be our responsibility as the audit committee. We talked about that in the past, and I agree with Debbie. We need to, either hold everybody accountable every couple of months to see what they're doing and that they're making some progress.
Okay. And I don't know what the timeline is going to be for when a new town manager is going to get hired. That, like I said before, that might cause a little bit of a hiccup, but tentatively I would like to look at, a September meeting, because obviously this won't go to the commissioners. This final audit won't go to the commissioners until the 14th. So we can maybe reconvene in September. That'll give a month just to kind of see where, and it might not be very productive if we don't have a new town manager on staff yet. But at least it gets us back together and brainstorming how we can be moving forward. And maybe we'll have at least a better timeline of when a new town manager might be on board. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. I'll look at I can't pull up my calendar right now because I'm on my phone and not my computer. So I'll look at some dates for September and email the committee about potential meeting dates in the month of
We
September.
also have the election in September too.
Oh, that's true. We do.
So
We'll have that to
be some
deal with. And I would suspect we're going to be Zooming in September as well and not be meeting in person still. So, I don't know what works. I mean, if we're Zooming, the evenings are fine with me versus a weekend day so that it doesn't disrupt everybody's, Saturday. But we can, again, the committee, I can send out some dates and some ideas and see what works the best for the committee for September.
That's fine with me.
Okay. So, do I have before we adjourn, do I have any final comments from anybody? Gary?
Yeah, just one comment. We do have a spot on the agenda for this Friday for you to
Right,
give
so
a
you
report
mentioned
on the
that to me.
committee. Yeah, and that is up front, so
Okay.
you'll be able to get in and get out fairly quickly if that's what you choose to do. And Scott seems to have something to say also, but it'll give you a chance to report on this meeting and the process and how we plan to get the audit finalized and move on with some of the recommendations in the audit report.
Okay, Gary, and what time is that commissioners meeting on Friday?
I believe it's at 3 o'clock.
At 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay. I will double check that, and yeah, I should be available as long as I don't get any calls until 4:30 from work. So thank you. Scott.
Yes,
Comment.
thank you. I do. I find Commissioner Moskowitz's comments very frustrating in the sense that we are working two dual lines right now. The commissioners for the past 2 months have been debating between $250,000 and $425,000 worth of cuts to the current year budget. And then, everybody wants to demand that these things are done at the same time. We're sending mixed messages, in my opinion, and I get to sit here and try to administrate this stuff. I would request that the committee push forward and get the work done and do whatever is necessary to get the fund balance policy finalized to where Cohn-Resnick is happy with it, because that's one of the starting platforms. How much money do we really have to work with? And getting everybody on the same page as how much money we really have to work with, because we have a fair amount of money to work with. We don't have endless supplies of money, but we have some money to work with. But we have to focus it on stuff and not be all over the board on everything. The IT assessment was going to take 2 years. If you go back to the last management letter, we had offered a 2-year timeline on it that didn't expire until March of 2021 anyway. I think that date was pushed by 6 months because of COVID-19 and the potential impacts of COVID-19. So it's not that we've just completely ignored anything in the audit or the auditor's comments. We spent a lot of time last year trying to get things on the same page with the auditor. We're over a month early from last year, getting the audit done and all of that stuff prepared. And so there is a lot of progress that's been made. We upgraded the computers. We have a management service contract with our IT provider. So some of these security issues have been addressed. And I don't know where the comment about no one's getting paid or pay's been delayed for people, I don't think that's even remotely correct. So I'm frustrated by the comments that come out of these meetings, and they're not discussed with anybody ahead of time. They're just leveled in public comment, so that I'm in a position where I have to respond to it, or I just have to take it on the chin. And I don't appreciate it one bit, taking it on the chin. So I think the town is in reasonable financial shape. We did not have a stellar year last year, but we also didn't get raked over the coals. We solved a large amount of litigation that had been levied upon the town, and it was resolved during that fiscal year. If you look at it, we had extraordinary police expenses that were related to problems going on last summer that we absorbed in the budget. And so there were a number of things that happened last year. I think last year we raised the salary of police department employees, of officers, in mid-year without adjusting the budget for it. So all of those things play into the bottom line of the year. We went and we sold a massive amount of items from the LISO program and also items that were from general government that had accumulated, and the commissioners voted to sell all of that stuff. While we realized the money from it, we also had to write off depreciation of some of those assets. So that had an effect on our bottom line in the end. So all of those things need to be weighed when we're talking about this. It can't be just 10 hits to the chin and then adjourn. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. And I will say one thing that Dan and Ryan did not bring up that was mentioned to me was the fact that they had to do far fewer adjustments during our, I forget the technical term for it now, it's escaping me.
Adjusting journal entries.
Thank you, that's it. Thank you, Bill. I knew it was adjusting somewhere in there. Than they had to do last year. So clearly there have been improvements about the way we do business in the town. So I think that should be recognized. And I'm sorry, if I would have thought about it sooner, I would have reminded Dan to bring it up, because that was something that, is obviously moving in the right direction and a positive of how we're moving forward. So that should absolutely be recognized as well. So thank you for that. Commissioner Persinger.
Yeah, just one final comment. I don't in any sense think this was a bad audit. And there are some things that are noted in there that need to be worked on. I have a personal sense of frustration because there are some things there that go back even to not the last audit, but the audit before that in terms of getting a policy and procedures manual done. And there are probably a host of reasons why these things didn't get done. I certainly don't lay it at the feet of the audit committee. I think the audit committee can certainly be a big help to us. Scott mentioned the general fund balance policy. If anybody on the committee is willing to help us with that, as Dan said, there are some nuances to that. We certainly didn't pick up on all those nuances, but it is an important thing to have in place. And we do want to get that done as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any final comments?
I do.
I'm sorry, who's saying? Oh, Commissioner Moskowitz.
Yeah, just a response to the town manager and to say to him, you're leaving. I live here full time with my daughter. I have an inherent interest in seeing the town do great. You're confusing the budget with internal controls. I'm a CPA and I'm privy to many things.
We're not going to have a back and forth here about.
Excuse me, this is public comment. And again, you interrupt me, Audit Chair, and you should let me get my 3 minutes. And I'm just finishing answering the 2 points raised, and I shouldn't be interrupted as every time per Robert's rules. The items that town manager raised, as Commissioner Persinger alluded to, were from 2 years ago. The timeline he's bringing up, all this was due 3/31/2020, not July, not June, not May. COVID was only an issue the last 2-3 weeks of March. There was no reason not to make progress on these issues. Instead, the town manager, I provided a list of issues. He didn't want to even look at it. Instead, he spent his time trying to get rid of the whistleblower policy. That should tell you there was something wrong. And when he got the new computers, he wouldn't even get 2 additional bids. We overpaid the new computers by $10,000. And as I alluded to before, going to Windows 10 is not a cybersecurity solution. There's a lot more involved in cybersecurity. You have Bernie and Debbie, who are amazing at what they do at cybersecurity. Bernie in particular, he has a great background. There's no reason not to bring them in and let them do their stuff. All I'm asking for is what I asked for before. Take a spreadsheet, put out all the issues that need to be done, what resources we have, what resources we need, and let's go every 3 months and just try to tackle it. That's how I do it at jobs I've been at. That's how the best practices, step by step, we can get this done together. The town manager is gone in 3 weeks. We're still here. We live here. And I just want to see these issues done. And it's very simple. We have money. We're wasting money on lawsuits and stuff. We have the money. We have the resources to get this done if we work together.
Bill, I saw you had your hand up before.
I just wanted to thank Scott for all his work and for all the time and for helping us out. Really appreciate it, Scott.
I second that. Thank you, Scott, for all that you've done for us in the past couple of years. And we're going to miss you, but good luck in your next endeavor. Anybody else? Final comments? Bernie, Donna, Debbie?
No, I'm good.
Oh, good.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Bill,
Good.
second.
Donna.
Donna?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thanks, Julie.
I'll be